Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you to today's observation. Let me welcome the former inmates and the Shoah survivors. Let me welcome all the distinguished guests from all over the world, representatives of churches and religious communities, including representatives of Jewish communities and representatives of the Roma. Now I am asking the President of the Republic of Poland, Mr. Bronisław Komorowski, for his address. Today's ceremony is under his patronage.
Drodzy Państwo,
ladies and gentlemen, and especially you who went through the Gehenna of Auschwitz, all distinguished guests, we are in the place where our civilization went down, in the place where the plan to deprive men of their dignity was systematically executed, where German Nazi launched a real death industry, and a human being was reduced to a tattooed camp number. 10 years ago, a survivor of the Shoah, Merka Szewach, said, "Here they kept my family in prison and they burned everyone. Here they took my name away and they gave me the number. Never again was I Merka Szewach. I became a number." We are standing in the place where over 1 million people were ruthlessly murdered, an overwhelming majority of them being Jews from nearly all Europe, but also Poles, Roma, Soviet prisoners of war, and many, many others. We are standing in the place that reminds us of the murderous Nazi ideology which undermined the pillars of the world. It was exactly 70 years ago that the camp was liberated by the troops of the 60th Army of the 1st Ukrainian Front of the Red Army. On that day, in the afternoon, the 100th Lviv Infantry Division entered the main part of the camp. It is with gratitude and respect that we are thinking today about those soldiers. Ladies and gentlemen, what was demonstrated in Auschwitz-Birkenau was cruel contempt for a human being, for human dignity. Torturers wanted also to annihilate memory. As Elie Wiesel, also a prisoner of Auschwitz, said, they wanted to kill again by forgetting. Each and every one of you, survivors of the camp, survivors of the hell of hatred and brutality, is a guardian of the memory of Auschwitz. You are the most important participants of today's commemorations. Being a guardian of the memory of Auschwitz entails not only the remembrance of the crime itself, but also reflection on its root causes that lie deeply in individuals, in nations, ideologies, and state policies. This is the memory of totalitarian regimes, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, that lay at the foundations of the collapse of our civilization of the 20th century. In a particular way, it is Poles that guard this tragic memory, since it was against occupied Poland that two totalitarian regimes simultaneously began to execute their genocide plan. In early 1940, the German occupation authorities decided to go ahead with a campaign, the so-called AB campaign, to exterminate the Polish intelligentsia. At the same time, the Soviet leadership decided to commit concentraction, mass murder of Polish officers as representatives of the Polish elite. Nearly at the same time, Germans founded the concentration camp in Auschwitz, mainly for Polish prisoners at that time. It was expanded later by adding the death camp Birkenau to it. The German occupier made my country a site of terror of exceptional magnitude and a place of extermination of European Jews. German Nazi made Poland an eternal cemetery of Jews. They ended many century-long Jewish presence in our land. This is exactly why Poland occupies a role of a special depository of the memory of Auschwitz and the Shoah. What is the memory of Auschwitz for us today? It is mainly a memory of suffering and the Shoah. It is a remembrance of a wound which is still open and hurting. It is also a memory of a cursed place, a place that took a toll on everyone who ever came close. A memory of Auschwitz is, however, also remembering that even in the face of the darkest fall of humanity, the greatest heroism, even sanctity, is possible. Like the sanctity of Father Maximilian Kolbe, who sacrificed his life to keep another prisoner alive. Because here the world was not only being destroyed, but also saved. The words imprinted on the medal awarded to the writers among the nations confirm this. They say, "Whosoever saves a single life saves an entire universe." Here, in particular, these words were so true. Ladies and gentlemen, for over 70 years, we have been trying to convey to the world the truth of the whole evil inflicted in this and other German death factories. In the name of the truth, we wish to fight attempts to relativize the Shoah today. I thank those who seek the truth and speak about the victims and perpetrators of this crime. The International Auschwitz Council and Auschwitz-Birkenau Museum do so in a unique way. In recent years, Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation, thanks to donors from all over the world, has continued efforts to preserve the authenticity of the premises of the camp. You are contributing to the saving of this powerful sign of memory and warning Auschwitz-Birkenau is for the whole world. And it should be so. Since the memory of Auschwitz is also the memory of the need to defend our values: freedom, justice, tolerance, and respect for human rights and civil freedoms. Years ago, John Paul II said here that Auschwitz is the reckoning with the conscience of humanity. He warned that never can one nation develop at the cost of another, at the price of making it dependent, conquered, enslaved, exploited, even at the price of its death. Thus we shall remember what the violation of nations' rights to self-determination leads to, what the violation of the principle of inviolability of borders, contempt for life, indifference in the face of evil lead to. From this place, we are condemning all manifestations of hatred, anti-Semitism, and xenophobia. An Auschwitz survivor, Primo Levi, said that all who forget their past are doomed to relive it. Our duty, the duty of the whole Europe and the whole world, is to remember for those who suffered here, for you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who survived the Gehenna of the camp. It is our duty to remember for ourselves and for the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we all want to listen to the world, to the voice of the witnesses. I'm now asking Ms. Halina Birnbaum, former Auschwitz inmate, to take the floor.
I never let them die. Today, requests, applications, letters, searching, waiting, understanding for the memory of remains, ferreted out, miraculously scraps of reality, long gone, supposedly unnecessary. I never let them die. Auschwitz, 70th anniversary of the liberation. Auschwitz is a place that used to be unknown, that my father used to scare us with, that they would all be sent there because my brother used to copy some articles for the underground newspaper. I was 11 years old at the time, and 2 years later, for me, even hundreds of thousands of other Jews and people of different nations, this place became the only reality for me, a bottomless pit of hell that I couldn't get out of. All around us, electric barbed wire and rows of grim barracks, stinking mud, and some figures are muddling through. You cannot tell whether they are old or young, whether they are women or men. This disgusting mass of people, all in lousy, wet rags, with numbers, shaven heads, those grey, bony faces with their legs like sticks, wearing those muddy clogs. Nothing reminding you of anything remotely human. The fall, agony, hunger, sicknesses, ulcers, and those diseases here mean immediate sentence, death in a gas chamber, verbal and physical abuse, refined and sophisticated torture, and death penalty everywhere for anything and everything. You are there so that you can not be anywhere in the world, to die trampled in mud, covered with excrements and blood. And all this with nature's approval that was used by the oppressors, with gusts of wind and snow and rain, and this labor beyond one's strength, and those German songs that we had to sing, and you would march there and some of them wouldn't return. And also we were taunted by a German band that accompanied us when we marched. And those columns passing nearby, those that marched to gas chambers, sometimes they would ask us, how far is it to the Jewish colony, because I need to feed my children. And those columns of fire and black billowing smokes and those Nazi Jewish colonies. and those piles of bodies. And I remember it was Christmas. On the one hand, there was this Christmas tree, and on the other side, there was fire of burned human bodies, and the ramps and trains, whole long trains with more victims and luggage. I was there, so very much there. For 2 years, I was trapped there, alien to myself, in the sudden transformation of hell, and illegal in Auschwitz, a Jewish child that is to go to gas immediately. Many a time did I die. I would freeze out of fear and tension and pain, this tension that accompanied the selection. And I would look and see the agony of my fellow prisoners with this terrible pain. Every moment was this terrible memory, terrible thought, will there be another one? I remember there was this roll call, and we were standing there, and the sun was shining, nobody was beating us up, and I had this fleeting thought, pathetic thought, maybe one day I will burn this crematorium that is behind the fence, and I will never have experienced a true love's kiss that I read about back in Warsaw in the ghetto. When you are 14, you have a different idea of what a pre-death thought is. But I survived. I lived to see the oppressors defeated. And then I saw the Nazi start fires, not to burn people anymore, but to burn documents, before they would lead columns of people for marches of death. I remember that my arm was incapacitated because I was shot by one of the guards. It was the New Year's, 1945. It was a single shot. The guard aimed at my heart, but he missed. And all that happened was my nerve was damaged, my arm was incapacitated. I was liberated by the Russians on the 3rd of May 1945 in Neustadt Kleve. It was one of the 2 last camps in Germany. I lived to see the defeat of those henchmen. It was something that my mother dreamed of before they took her away from me, before she died and was burned at Majdanek. It is all fresh in my memory. When I'm telling you this, I'm reliving those facts and those thoughts. All that inhuman and superhuman that you breathed when you were in Auschwitz every single day and night. People who died here, tortured here, mostly Jews, but not only, not even names remained. All that remains are ashes scattered by the wind. And for me, the greatest debt is to pass on this memory, to tell others about how much they desired to live. I want to tell the world about that. And this overwhelming daily terror that I was at. I was 10 and then 15, and all that transports me back to those moments and to those names with this pain and longing. And I must say that even if I could, I would rather not forget all that. In my memories only can I be with my loved ones and feel their absent presence next to me, because even their photos were burned. And those images are etched deep in my mind. And through them I can tell right from wrong, and I can tell what the reality is like, and instinctively I can be vigilant. I can recognize evil lurking nearby. And these memories actually make it impossible for me, and I can't reconcile it with the fact that people do not really understand what Auschwitz was. What is life for a human being? His life, the loved ones, and the life of his nation. This life that is threatened by others, people who want to take away somebody's life, somebody's possessions. There is this fear, there is denial, Holocaust denial. All that terrifies me. I feel outraged because I know what kind of hell all that can turn into if nobody stops it. This Auschwitz lurking in evil, it lingers and is reborn in this growing terror, in anti-Semitism, in racism. And it grows to people being decapitated with others watching, the whole world watching. Sometimes, when I'm really stunned with what is happening around us, I keep telling myself, Auschwitz could actually legally exist for years and act for years. If that is possible, all the worst things in the world are possible. But you need to oppose that. You have to oppose all that unequivocally so that no further tragedies occur. And this museum, Auschwitz-Birkenau Museum and Memorial, they are doing great work. The management, the employees, they are all keeping those scraps of documents and memorials, and they keep the testimony of eyewitnesses. They preserve all that, this knowledge about the life of all those millions of people so very close to death, this memory of human strength, of friendship and love. And here I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart to the management of the museum and to all of you. It is my great privilege that I can participate in this commemoration of the 70th anniversary of Auschwitz liberation. I'm just an inmate, just a prisoner number 48693 with a death penalty because I was so young and because I was Jewish. I would like to thank all of you for this sense of a momentous moment that we have here. And I would like to thank all of you for that in this place that used to be so horrifying.
Szanowni Państwo, o zabranie
Ladies
głosu
and gentlemen,
byłego
now
więźnia
I'm asking
Auschwitz, pana
a former
Kazimierza
inmate of KL Auschwitz, Mr. Kazimierz Albin, to take the floor. Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear inmates, my fellows, you are in the German concentration camp of Auschwitz as an element that is an enemy of the Third Reich. For Jews, 2 weeks. For priests, a month. For young and healthy, 3 months. This is how long you have the right to live. No longer than that. All and any insubordination or rebellion will be ruthlessly stamped down. For any resistance to authorities, attempted escape, death is the penalty. The only way out from here is through the chimney of the crematoria. These are the words that were shouted out by the Lagerführer SS Hauptsturmführer Karl Fritsch to us, 728 Polish political prisoners of the first transport on the 14th of June 1940. They were made our reality with criminal persistence for over 4.5 years of existence of the Konzentrationslager Auschwitz. A testimony to this are hundreds of transports, Poles, Soviet prisoners of war, Jews, Roma, and representatives of several other nations. It was proven by terror, hunger, phenol shots, selections in the bunkers of the 11 block, and executions at the wall of death. This was from the very first days. In mid-1942, the Auschwitz concentration camp was transformed into the death camp, Vernichtungslager. Coming to the railway ramp every day are transports of Jews from all the captured parts of Europe. SS doctors conduct selections. Women who can work are taken to the blocks of Auschwitz I and men to Birkenau. Pregnant women, the ailing, the old, and children go to the gas chambers. The Holocaust takes a deathly toll, and the efficiency of crematoria and the pyres is still not sufficient for the henchmen. Around Auschwitz, several tens of similar subcamps are developed, to which camp administration provides the labor, cashing plenty of money for the work of the slaves, slaving in the Hitlerite industry and mines. The madness of the overpeople, the Übermenschen, is opposed by the stronger individuals. From the first day, an incessant struggle for biological survival continues. A struggle to take away from death the maximum number of beings and for preservation of human dignity. Within the camp and around the camp, there was also an organized resistance, a movement managed by the Home Army, Polish Socialist Party, and the Peasants' Battalions, BH. The dedication of the Polish people from the zone around the camp did not have a price. Priceless and efficient form of self-defense were escapes from the camp. Inmates escaped to take out documents of SS crimes, to pass to the world the truth about the camp, and to fight in arms with the occupant. Few were lucky enough to experience that. Only 10% of the escapes ended in success. To the sound of the siren, special pursuit SS units supported by the armed patrols of the German Bauers, who replaced the resettled Poles, went for pursuit and chase campaigns. The excruciating yell of the siren inspired fear in the inmates due to the repressions, but it also gave hope that the world will learn about the crimes of the Nazi at KL Auschwitz-Birkenau. I myself heard that siren for the last time late in the evening on the 27th of February 1943, when, having escaped from Auschwitz, among the floating ice, I was crossing the Soa River. That sound continues to vibrate in my subconscious ever since. I have paid a high price for escaping from the camp. Following the repression, Sicherheitsdienst arrested my sister and mother, who was deported to KL Auschwitz-Birkenau and from there to Ravensbrück. Luckily, they have lived through that Gehenna. The merciful fate made it that today, on the 70th anniversary of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Monowitz camp complex by the Red Army, together with my colleagues, former inmates of KL Auschwitz-Birkenau, I can now be standing before the monument to the victims of Nazi in Birkenau to honor the memory of those who did not survive, those who passed away. Let us honor them with a moment's silence.
Dziękuję.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen,
o zabranie głosu
I'm
proszę
now
byłego
asking
więźnia KL Auschwitz,
former Auschwitz
pana
inmate,
Romana Kenta.
Mr. Roman Kent, to take the floor.
I am often asked how long I was in Auschwitz. My answer is, I do not know. But what I do know is that 1 minute in Auschwitz was like an entire day. A day was like a year, a month, an eternity. How many eternities can one person have in a single lifetime? I don't know the answer to that either. Zachor, pamiętaj, remember. This was the word my father frequently uttered to me during the Holocaust. Today, 70 years later, that command to remember is indeed superfluous. For me, a survivor of Auschwitz, to forget the horrific experiences enduring during the concentration camps, even for one moment, is impossible. Witnessing the atrocities committed at the entrance gate to Auschwitz was more than enough to keep me awake at night until the end of time. It is there that the Germans welcomed and began to brutalize their guests. Horses were driven into families and groups of people, forcing them apart and separating them, often forever. As camp guards slashed us with whips that cut as sharply as finely swords. Even 70 years later, the daily cruelty and inhuman behavior in the camps is still indelibly etched in my mind. The look of pleasure on the murderers' faces and their laughter as their tortured innocent men, women, and children is beyond description and lingers in my consciousness. How can one erase the sight of human skeletons just skin and bones, but still alive? How can I ever forget the smell of burning flesh that permeated the air? Many of us came to Auschwitz not knowing each other in life, but most left together in death through the chimneys in the form of a white, blue smoke. The heartbreaking and weeping of the children torn from their mother's arms by the brutal action of their torturers will ring in my ears until I am laid to rest. I continue to wonder if the cries of these youngsters ever penetrated Heaven's Gate. We survivors continuously came face to face with death. Yet, despair was not our response. Despite hopelessness, we created life out of the world of darkness, and we now remember the all-consuming evil we were forced to endure. We survivors cannot, dare not, to forget the millions who were murdered. For if we were to forget, the conscience of mankind would be buried alongside the victims. Today, in this place, we are part of the 70th anniversary commemorating the liberation of Auschwitz, held under the auspices of the government of Poland. What a superb opportunity to extend a meaningful, heartful message to leaders of all nations, to the world at large. We must all remember. For if you, the leaders in the world, will remember and to teach others to remember, then the Holocaust and other atrocities like Darfur, Biafra, Kosovo, as well as attacks as the present one in Paris, will have no place on the face of the earth. But to remember is not enough. Deeds as well as thoughts are crucial. It is our mutual obligation, that of survivors and that of national leaders, to install in current and future generations the understanding of what happens when virulent prejudice and hatred are allowed to flourish. We must all teach our children tolerance and understanding, both at home and in school. For tolerance cannot be assured. It must be taught. We all must make clear that hate is never right, and love is never wrong. When I think of Holocaust, as I often do, there are but few holy acts that I consider really holy, and which redeem my faith in mankind. Without hesitation, the courageous and heroic deeds of the non-Jews, those we call the righteous Gentiles, who saved Jewish life during the Holocaust, fall into this category. To save innocent Jewish life, the righteous Gentiles endangered their own life and often that of the family to save the life of a stranger. Righteous Gentiles, just a few against tens of millions, showed the world that the answer to tyranny and indifference is involvement and the courage to make moral choices and act in accordance with their choices. Their deeds should serve as an example of what could have been done and as indictment what was not done, and as a moral torch in a world of oppression and darkness. These rescuers, nobles by deed but modest by character, taught us that even in the hell known as the Holocaust, the individual had a choice and the capacity to behave humanly if she or he only cared and had the courage to act accordingly. We survivors shared a common goal with the current generation. And hopefully, with all future generations. We do not want our past to be our children's future. I really wanted to repeat it, but you interrupted it by the applause. But I will still repeat it. Because that's the key to my existence. We survivors do not want our past to be our children's future. I hope and believe that this generation will build on mankind's great traditions, tempered by understanding that these traditions must embrace pluralism and tolerance, decency and human rights for all people, and must include opposition to anti-Semitism and to racism of any sort. It should be commonplace rather than exceptions. Unfortunately, the passage of time makes it more and more apparent that there is an effort by the ideological successors of the perpetrators, as well as the deniers and the ignorant, abetted by much of the media. I can repeat it, that it is abetted by much of the media. To sanitize the Shoah, they employ language to describe the Holocaust so that it appears less wicked and brutal. Their efforts obscures the truth of what actually happened. For example, it has become routine to use the word lost when we're referring to relatives and loved ones who were brutally murdered during the Holocaust. But the term lost does not accurately describe what happened. Lost refers to something that has been misplaced or has gone astray. 11 million people, including 6 million Jews and 1.5 million Jewish children, were not lost or misplaced. These children were murdered, as there were generations that would have followed them. Similarly, we often hear that the millions perished during the Holocaust. Let me make clear, those died in Auschwitz. They did not perish in the normal sense of the word. They were viciously killed, murdered, burned in the crematoria. For all intents and purposes, by not telling it as it actually was, clearly and without qualification or hedging, we offensively diminish our outrage that should exist. And in effect, we protect the perpetrators who perform these reprehensible deeds. By using sanitized words, by cleaning up what happened, we unknowingly help the deniers. We hereby posthumously lessen the atrocities of the perpetrator. And yet, in view of the current participation and awareness of so many world leaders, there is visible sign of compassion and improvement instead of indifference. This is progress. It is now up to the leaders of tomorrow, but there remains so much more to be done. We all must be involved and stay involved. No one should ever be a spectator. I feel so strongly about this point that if I had the power, I would add an 11th commandment to the universally accepted 10 Commandments. You should never, never be a bystander. Thus I hope against hope that there is a brighter future for mankind. After all, we live together on the same planet. Perhaps when we all finalize that we are one people, we can then make sure that tragedy like Auschwitz will never happen again to us or to any other people. I am going to end my remarks by quoting the writing of Primo Levi expressing his thought about Auschwitz. From whatever country you look at the ruins of the camp, think and do all you can so your pilgrimage will be not in vain, as it was not in vain our death. For you and your children, the ashes of Auschwitz are a warning. Act so that the terrible fruit of hatred, whose traces are visibly here, will never grow again a seed, neither tomorrow nor ever. Thank you.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen, and now I'm asking for the premiere screening of film Auschwitz, collaboration of the Museum and Shoah Foundation from Los Angeles. The producer is Steven Spielberg and director James Moll.
Tucked into Poland's southwestern corner, at the meeting of two rivers, lies the town of Oswięcim. In the early 1900s, a series of barracks was built here to house immigrant workers. A seemingly minor twist in Oswięcim's story that would dramatically change its fate. In 1939, Poland is invaded, triggering World War II. Within days, the German state, the Third Reich, captures Oswięcim and renames it Auschwitz. The Reich rounds up thousands of political prisoners across Poland. Needing a place to hold them, the eye of the German Schutzstaffel, the SS, falls on the barracks at Auschwitz. Inmates face starvation, disease, and deadly violence. With the death toll on the rise, architects from Germany's Topf & Sons are brought in to build a crematorium. The company's logo is stamped with pride on the ovens. The prisoner population swells, and the Reich orders the construction of a sub-camp called Birkenau that can hold 100,000 inmates. Auschwitz is voracious, swallowing whole villages. Eventually, there will be 48 subcamps, and Auschwitz will cover more land than any other camp in the Reich. Inmates now include Polish political prisoners, gypsies, and Jews, but not every group will find the same fate. Nazi Germany orders a change in policy. Jewish deportees will not be resettled, but exterminated. The so-called final solution to the Jewish question. Birkenau is repurposed as an extermination center. Topf & Sons returns to help build 4 more gas chambers and crematoria. The company boasts that its facilities can kill and dispose of more than 4,000 human beings in 24 hours. Trains full of Jewish prisoners, sometimes several thousand people a day, begin arriving at Birkenau from nearly every country occupied by Nazi Germany. They have no idea what awaits them, no inkling that their fates and those of the ones they love will be decided in a matter of minutes, that this may well be the last time they set eyes on one another.
A young SS officer raised his arm, and in one single movement, he sent my mom and the baby, my sister and my grandmother to his right, and then he sent me to his left. That was the very last time I saw them.
The process is called selection. An SS doctor casts his eye over new prisoners, deciding whether they're able to work. There is no official standard. His whim prevails, and a flick of his finger decides life or death.
It all happens quickly, as if on a conveyor belt. It's the night I lose my entire family.
Those considered fit for work, usually no more than a quarter of a transport, now begin a meticulous process of dehumanization.
The first thing is, we have to take all our clothes off, walking among prisoners and SS soldiers, naked. It was traumatic. Our heads were shaven. We could hardly recognize one another.
We are given rags in place of our clothes.
We were thrown a dress, no underwear, nothing, just a dress and some shoes. Then we were tattooed.
We were told, forget your name. From now on, you're a number. That's all you are.
Inmates endure long, grueling days of labor. Some are forced to stand day and night in tiny cells, while others are chosen as human guinea pigs for brutal medical experiments.
It was a feeling of total despair. I said to myself, even if I were to sprout wings, I could not fly out of here.
And then there is the cruel anguish of wondering what's happened to loved ones, those taken away during selection. Women, children, the old and infirm, those deemed unfit for work, are taken through camp to a staircase that leads underground. Here they are ordered to undress and told to leave their clothes on numbered hooks to be easily located after what they are told will be a shower. Prisoners are directed into a long, narrow room until they are tightly packed. The door is closed. SS guards drop pellets down wire mesh columns, releasing poisonous gas. Victims die an agonizing death. Their corpses are handled by the Sonderkommando, mostly Jewish prisoners forced to face a soul-destroying challenge: to cart out the bodies of fellow inmates and pull out any gold teeth before loading the corpses onto an elevator that carries them up to be burned in waiting ovens. As many as 2,000 people murdered in under 20 minutes. Yet, according to the SS, there are no murderers here. The system is designed to ease the conscience of the killers, Each guard carries out only a single discrete action along the line. In his mind, he personally has not killed anyone.
Mamma, son tanto felice perché ritorno da te. La tua canzone mi dice.
Singing? Here in the extermination camp, people are still able to sing? How is it possible?
Able to sing, able to draw, able to create. In the factory of death, stubborn signs of life. In a world where a person's individuality is systematically erased, here are faces rendered in exquisite detail. Artists at Auschwitz create an intimate view of life at the camp. A record that wouldn't otherwise exist. The children at Auschwitz show their own kind of resilience.
When we returned from work that evening, I found a small flower on my bed. Many happy returns, my friend Rennie wished me. And with a wink, she added, "Did you think we had forgotten your birthday?"
When it becomes clear that Germany is losing the war, the SS abandons the camp. To hide their crimes, guards blow up Birkenau's crematoria and destroy most records. On January 27, 1945, Soviet troops arrive at the gates of Auschwitz.
A soldier picked me up, rocking me in his arms, tears flowing down his face. Somebody out there really cares about me. It was the first time I had that feeling.
Liberation would take only a matter of hours, but comprehension would be a very different thing. Generations have struggled with what to take away from this place, this story. Auschwitz isn't a moment preserved in amber. It's a scar on a living world, still vulnerable to the sickness of genocide. The past constantly reinvents and reasserts itself. The past is, in fact, present. Auschwitz reminds us of a powerful truth, that while the humanity of any one person can be extinguished, humanity itself cannot be. It endures, sometimes quietly. It triumphs, eventually.
Szanowni Państwo, o zabranie głosu proszę przedstawiciela Filarów Pamięci, największych prywatnych darczyńców Funduszu na rzecz zachowania autentyzmu Auschwitz-Birkenau, pana Ronalda Laudera.
Your Excellencies, honored guests, I am not a survivor, although I am grateful for the survivors who are here today. I am not a liberator, although I salute the courage of the veterans who are among us today. I am here simply as a Jew. And like Jews everywhere, this place, this terrible place called Auschwitz, touches our souls. I've always wondered if I had been born in Hungary, where my grandparents were from, instead of in New York in February 1944, would I have lived? The answer is no. I would have been one of the 438,000 Hungarian Jews gassed by the Nazis in 1944, right here in Auschwitz. What was the reason that over 1 million Jews were murdered right here? The reason was they were Jewish. Nazi Germany believed Jews had no right to live. Yes, the Holocaust was designed by the Nazis, but there was complicity from almost every country in Europe. For 70 years, philosophers, theologians, and historians have tried to explain Auschwitz. And for 70 years, no one has come up with an adequate answer. So Auschwitz never goes away. This awful place stands as a reminder that propaganda leads to anti-Semitism. It's a reminder that anti-Semitism will grow if nobody speaks out. And it's a reminder that when whole countries are filled with hate, anti-Semitism leads to places like Auschwitz. I was going to make a very different speech here today, but after the recent events in Paris and throughout Europe and around the world, I cannot ignore what is happening today. Jews are targeted in Europe once again because they're Jews. Synagogues and Jewish businesses are attacked. There are mass demonstrations with thousands of people shouting death threats to the state of Israel and to Jews. Shortly after the end of World War II, after we saw the reality of Auschwitz and other death camps, no normal person wanted to be associated with the anti-Semitism of the Nazis. And for a time, we thought that the hatred of Jews had finally been eradicated. But slowly, the demonization of Jews started to come back, first in articles and on the internet, and in some religious schools, and even in universities. And from these, it made its way into mainstream society. And it all seemed so unimportant that few people paid any attention until now, when Europe suddenly awoke to find itself surrounded by anti-Semitism once again. And it looks more like 1933 than 2015. Once again, young Jewish boys are afraid to wear yarmulkes on the streets of Paris and Budapest, London, and even Berlin. Once again, Jewish businesses are targeted. And once again, Jewish families are starting to flee Europe. This past summer, Anna Sjogren, a mother of 4, was walking down the street in Uppsala, Sweden, when she was suddenly viciously beaten by a mob. What did she do to deserve this? She was wearing a Star of David around her neck. How did this happen again? Why? After 7 decades and 3 generations, is this new storm of anti-Semitism sweeping through Europe and targeting Jews once again? For decades, the world has been fed lies about Israel, that Israel is the curse of everyone's problems, that Israelis are villains of the 21st century, and that Israel has no right to exist. We all learned that when you tell a lie 3 times and there is no response, that lie becomes the truth. This vilification of Israel, the only Jewish state on earth, quickly became an opportunity to attack Jews, much as this came from the Middle East, but it found fertile ground throughout the world. And the targets of this hate are not just Jews, but Christians who are being slaughtered in Africa and the Middle East. Women and girls are killed in Afghanistan just for wanting to go to school. Journalists are murdered in the Middle East and right here in Europe. An awful wave of hatred has ascended on our earth once again. There are representatives today from 40 countries with us here today, and we, the Jewish people, are really so grateful that you've joined us. You are good, decent people, but because of what we are and what this place means, your governments must stand up to this new wave of hatred. Schools must teach tolerance of all people. Houses of worship should be places of love, understanding, and healing. They should not be telling their people to kill in the name of God. All countries must make hate a crime. And any country that openly brags about the annihilation of another country should be expelled from the family of nations. every country must have absolutely zero tolerance for hate of any type, because unless it's checked right now, it will be too late. We still have a chance to stop this, but if every government does not act quickly, then the tragedy of this terrible place will darken the world again. World silence led to Auschwitz. World indifference led to Auschwitz. World anti-Semitism led to Auschwitz. Do not let this happen again. Do not let this happen again. Thank you.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen,
oddaję głos
and now
opiekunowi
I'm
miejsca
asking the
pamięci
guardian of Auschwitz-Birkenau
panu
Memorial,
dyrektorowi, doktorowi
Director
Piotrowi Cywińskiemu.
Piotr Cywiński.
Spodziewali się,
They expected the worst,
ale nie tego,
not
co
the
niewyobrażalne.
unthinkable.
Charlotte Delbourg.
Charlotte Delbourg.
Czy ból ofiary
Can the pain of a victim from 70 years ago become our heritage today?
Nie wiem,
I don't know,
ale
but we don't have another choice.
na tymże
It
bólu
was on this very pain that we had to build the post-war era.
musimy się więc mądrze
We therefore have to listen closely and feel what has already not happened to us.
Nasza wyobraźnia nadal
Our imaginations are still unable to fathom this, just like the imagination of the people of those times did not fathom that.
noc.
Night,
Noc bez końca.
night without end, no dawn comes. Tadeusz Borowski.
Auschwitz nie jest.
Auschwitz is not a source of strength.
Jeśli ktokolwiek
If anyone came here to feel strength, wisdom, catharsis, they are all wrong. Auschwitz is darkness, destruction, annihilation. This is why it takes on the form of a warning, a horrid warning. We still cannot cope with Auschwitz, as we cannot save human face, at the same time consenting to hatred, contempt, anti-Semitism, and first and foremost, our daily indifference. This is why Auschwitz is so frightening. Today it no longer awakens the demons, it awakens the conscience. And this conscience accuses each and every one of us. We, the dead, accuse anonymous Czech female inmate. The survivors, you, the living, in your memories carrying the visages of those murdered. We thank you, dear friends, for your difficult words of warning, for your fear and for your hope. for everything that you told us about us ourselves. Today, we have to become mature adults, carrying further all that your words have sown in our memories. This often feels too overwhelming, but we don't have and will not have another choice. We have a dark premonition because we know. Zalman Gradowski. It would seem that the world should stay different for good, that no one should be innocently killed. It would seem that no longer hatred can be propagated today, and that no one is going to try to change borders by force. It would seem that indifference and passiveness should stir disgust. We have, however, so many times seen that the remembrance has not yet matured in us. It happened, therefore it can happen again. It can happen anywhere. Primo Levi. Even today we have the right to be afraid, but we also have the obligation to be responsible, because we know. As our future is rooted in remembrance, and when we forget, we are not destroying an image of the past, but the tangible shape of our future. Never again is not a political program, but it is a personal decision. It means never again because of me, never again in me, never again with me. I believe that never again with all of us. Thank you. We have listened to fragments of two quartets by Szymon Laks, former inmate of KL Auschwitz, composer and writer, performed by Rafał Zambrzycki-Payne, Patryk Laburda, Maria Dudka, and Łukasz Frant. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will now unite in prayer for those murdered in Auschwitz.
Dziękuję wszystkim za powstanie. Proszę o odmówienie modlitwy Kadisz. Kadisz odmówią rabini pod przewodnictwem rabina Irvinga Greenberga, członka Międzynarodowej Rady Oświęcimskiej.
למען תברא, קיוויתי אדוני ככתן נפשי, לדברו חרתי, נפשי לאדוני משומרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר, יחל ישראל אדוני, ימני חסד נוי מופדות, ויפתה את ישראל מכל עוונותיו.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד דברת וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ויומכון חיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. שהי שמי רבה וברך לעולם ומי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ותהלל שמי קדושה ובריחו. יעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם ועלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רב בן שמעיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום לדבריו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Proszę byłego więźnia KL Auschwitz, kantora Dawida Wiśnię o odmówienie modlitwy El Male Rachamim.
El Male Rachamim, Sochein Bamromim. אמצי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים הקדושים והטהורים מאושוויץ ומבירקנאו ומכל המקומות שנהרגו ונשחטו ונחנקו ונהנו באכזריות על ידי פושעים הנאצים הגרמנים ומתו בייסורים גדולים והלכו לעולמם. ברור שכל הקהל מתפלל מיד הזכרת נשמתם. יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם. וינוחו בשלום על משכבם ונאמר אמן.
Proszę Jego Ekscelencję, arcybiskupa Celestino Migliore, o odmówienie modlitwy Wieczny odpoczynek w języku łacińskim.
Requiem aeternam dona eis Domine, et lux perpetua luce a Teis, requiescant in pace. Amen.
Proszę Jego Ekscelencję, biskupa diecezji bielsko-żywieckiej, Romana Pindla, o odmówienie modlitwy Wieczny odpoczynek w języku polskim.
Wieczny odpoczynek racz im dać, Panie, a światłość wiekuista niechaj im świeci. Niech odpoczywają w pokoju wiecznym. Amen.
Proszę radcę diecezji cieszyńskiej Kościoła Ewangelicko-Augsburskiego, księdza Piotra Wowrego, o odmówienie modlitwy Wieczny odpoczynek w języku angielskim.
Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. Amen.
Proszę księdza Mikołaja Dziewiatowskiego z Polskiego Autokefalicznego Kościoła Prawosławnego o odmówienie modlitwy Boże duchów i ciała wszelkiego w języku cerkiewno-słowiańskim.
Господу помолимся, Господи помилуй, Боже духов, и всякой плоти смерть поправый, дьявол празднивый, и живот миру Твоему даровавый, сам Господи, упокой душу усопших рабов Твоих, всех зде погибших, вместе светле, вместе сладшне, вместе покойне, od niudu, że odbierze boleść, pieczali, wozdychanie, всякое согрешение, содеянное ими словом или делом или помышлением, яко благий человеколюбец Бог прости, яко не с человек, иже жив будет и не согрешит, Ты, бо един кроме греха, правда Твоя правда, и во веки слово Twoje istino.
Szanowni Państwo, proszę wszystkich o zajęcie miejsc i pozostanie na miejscach. Za chwilę wymienione przeze mnie delegacje poprosimy o przygotowanie się do wyjścia w kierunku pomnika w Birkenau. Wszystkie osoby, które pozostaną tu przed bramą śmierci, będą widziały składanie zniczy na ekranach. Przed pomnikiem ofiar w Birkenau złożymy hołd pomordowanym. Niech świece będą znakiem naszej wiecznej pamięci. Jako pierwsza znicze złoży trzyosobowa delegacja byłych więźniów KL Auschwitz. Towarzyszyć im będzie młodzież,
They will be accompanied by the young who want to carry further the memory of Auschwitz and Shoah.
A teraz o udanie się w kierunku pomnika proszę głowy państw oraz szefów wszystkich delegacji państwowych obecnych na dzisiejszych uroczystościach. Szanowni Państwo, a teraz o złożenie zniczy.
Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm requesting the pillars of memory to proceed towards the monument. Ellie Kleinman, Melinda Goldrich, Steven Spielberg, Samuel Ellie on behalf of Lily Safra, Greg Masser on behalf of Frank Lowry.
Teraz proszę opiekunów miejsca
I'm asking guardians of the memorial, President of the International Auschwitz Council, Professor Barbara Engelking, Minister of Culture and National Heritage, Professor Małgorzata Omilanowska, and Director of Auschwitz-Birkenau Museum, Dr. Piotr Cywiński, to proceed towards the memorial.
Pogrążając się w refleksji i obserwując symboliczny gest
in reflection and watching the symbolic gesture of placement of the candles, we will listen to Adagio for Strings by Samuel Barber.
delegations will come back here in front of the gate of death. So please stay in the tent because we are waiting for the end of our commemoration. Thank you. kwiaty na pomniku ofiar składają przedstawiciele byłych więźniów KL Auschwitz. The representatives of the former prisoners are paying tribute to the martyred in Auschwitz. And now, representatives of the highest authorities of many countries. Teraz znicze składają przedstawiciele najwyższych władz państwowych i przedstawiciele oficjalnych delegacji państwowych obecnych na dzisiejszych uroczystościach. Ladies and gentlemen, I would kindly remind you that all representatives of former prisoners, states, Pillars of Memory, International Auschwitz Council, Ministry of Culture and National Heritage, and Auschwitz-Birkenau State Museum will come back to the tent, and we will continue our commemoration. So please remain seated. The last of delegations is paying tribute to the victims. All representatives are coming back here in front of the gate of death. So please remain seated. Szanowni Państwo, obchody 70. rocznicy wyzwolenia niemieckiego nazistowskiego obozu koncentracyjnego i zagłady Auschwitz dobiegają powoli końca. Bardzo dziękuję za Państwa obecność i upamiętnienie ofiar. W szczególności chcę podziękować byłym więźniom i ocalałym. Dziękuję także przedstawicielom najwyższych władz państwowych.